Thanks very much, Chair. Nice to see you all again. I have some questions relating to we'll call it the Carrick matter, which is the young boy who was 13 years old with quite significant autism, who was investigated by the Australian Federal Police and then charged with terrorism offences. You remember the matter? Has to be verbal, sorry, Deputy Commissioner? Yes, you do. And you remember it was thrown out in a quite brutal judgment by a local court magistrate who basically issued a permanent stay as an abusive process. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do, Senator.
Yes. And last time I was asking you questions about this, you indicated that there was a point in the investigation, and when I say you, I mean the AFP, I think it was actually now Acting Commissioner McCartney who answered many of the questions. You indicated there was a point that when the AFP were first involved, there was a joint counter-terrorism operation, which was the AFP and Victorian Police, and the original decision was to have some countering violent extremism, some counselling and outreach. Do you remember that?
I do, Senator.
And if I recall correctly, you said there was a point after a few months of that where it was determined to move from that counselling process and a CVE process to, I think it was a major controlled operation. Do you remember that?
I do.
And I've just double-checked on the judgment. The major controlled operation commenced on the 11th of August 2021. Does that date seem right?
That seems right.
Yep. And of course, once the CVE guidelines say once a major controlled operation and a criminal investigation is on foot, the CVE needs to end. You can't be doing both at the same time because the CVE, the Countering Violence Extremism, obviously conflicts with the role of a police investigation.
Sorry, could you just repeat that statement, Senator? I didn't catch the first bit.
The Countering Violence Extremism guidelines say, quite rightly, that you can't be doing CVE at the same time as you're doing a live, hot criminal investigation, gathering evidence with the intent to obtain a prosecution, because they're utterly in conflict.
Listen, Senator, we've spoken about this issue obviously a number of times. It was a complex matter. I think the focus initially was on the CVE approach, but then we came to the decision, a joint decision with Victoria Police and ASIO, that process was not working and the threat had escalated.
Yeah. And then the countering violence, the CVE process was ended and the criminal prosecution began. He turned 14, I think on the 17th of September 2021, and then only a matter of, bit over a fortnight afterwards, he was charged with the terrorism offences.
Correct.
It's time frame. And of course the AFP had obtained the family's trust, hadn't they, in the course of this? That was part of the role, the CVE role. You regularly had police officers attend, you sought to obtain the family's trust. Is that right?
I think the CVE focus was from Victoria Police, Senator. I might just take that one on notice, but the family were engaged, correct.
Mm-hmm. But by the time he'd turned 14, the AFP had formed the view, as had the joint countering terrorism body, had formed the view that he was going to be prosecuted. The CVE had ended and he was going to be prosecuted.
We formed the view that the threat had escalated to an unacceptable level and the community was at risk, Senator, and we took appropriate action.
I'm going to show you a photograph. I have a few copies. Do you agree that retaining trust with the community is essential for the AFP's operations and being seen to be genuine? is essential for the AFP's operations. The community thinking that their engagement with police will be genuine and a relationship of trust. Do you accept that that's important?
It's an important aspect, of course.
Yeah. I've just given you a photograph. It's a photograph of a birthday cake that the police gave to Thomas on his birthday when he turned 14 on the 17th of September, at which point police had already formed the view that they were going to charge him. Police had already formed the view that the CVE would end, and I won't read out his name, but it has in prominent writing on the top of a cake with blue flowers on it, "We love you, X." What on earth were the police doing, giving a 14-year-old boy a birthday cake with blue flowers, blue police-coloured flowers on it, saying, "We love you," when you had already made the decision to charge him and prosecute him and put him in jail for terrorism offences? What is wrong? What is wrong with your officers who made that decision? How could it ever have happened?
Senator, this is the first time I've seen this photograph. I'm not aware of the circumstances.
Do you agree it's an obscene breach of trust, an obscene breach to give a 14-year-old boy with autism, who you've made a decision to charge, a birthday cake from the police with "We love you" on it? So how could any 14-year-old boy deal with getting a birthday cake from the police one day and then those same police trying to put him in jail and charge him a matter of weeks later? How could you do that to a child?
So, Senator, I understand your question. I'm unaware of the circumstances. I'm unaware of the context. I think from a CVE perspective, Victoria Police had the lead in relation to that aspect. I'm happy to take it on notice and come back to you.
Do you accept on the face of it, it is an obscene breach of faith and trust and just basic human decency to do that to a 14-year-old boy with an intellectual impairment and significant autism, to give him that on his birthday from the police and then charge him with terrorism offences weeks later, knowing you were going to do that when you gave him the cake?
So, as I said, I'm unaware of the circumstances, unaware of the context in relation to this photograph. I'll take it on notice, Senator.
I have been appalled, for the record, by police conduct, and not just police, the CDPP and others who are engaged in it, the inhumane approach to this family and this boy. But this, giving the boy a cake in police colours with "We love you" on it, when you'd already decided to charge him and put him in jail for terrorism, this is a degree of institutional bastardry that I couldn't have believed would happen.
Senator, I note your comments. I'll take it on notice.
Since the case has been thrown out, and can I stress, this family came to police. They came to you looking for help for their boy. Since the case has been thrown out, the family have tried to get their life back together again, and they wanted to take their kids on a trip to Singapore and Malaysia recently. And they went through the process of getting their passport, getting their boy's passport back. And they asked the passport officials if there was any impediment on the travel. They said no. Now, I'm assuming that given the responses I've had to date from the AFP, that you continue to keep this family under observation. I think that's a safe assumption. I see you nodding.
Well, no, I'm not agreeing with you, Senator.
Well, anyhow, I'm assuming that's the case. They made plans to travel, and I'll note for the record that you haven't either agreed or disagreed with that. That's your position.
I'm waiting for your question, Senator.
They plan to travel to Singapore, and when they arrive in Singapore, there's clearly information given to the Singaporean authorities They are detained. They are held in immigration. The boys, the children are further traumatised. They are taken from the airport, held in detention, and then marched back onto the plane, surrounded by armed. They say they're armed police. They may have been some other armed officials. Sat down. Their passports are confiscated and only returned when they get back to Sydney. Did the AFP provide information to Singaporean authorities or to Interpol that would have caused this to happen?
Senator, I can say that the AFP provided no information to Singaporean authorities in relation to
Did
this.
the AFP provide information to a database such as Interpol?
No, the AFP did not.
Senator
Were
Shoebridge, I need to wind you up in a moment, but I know I want to give both of you an opportunity to clear up the record.
Was the AFP aware? Thank you, Chair. Was the AFP aware that the family was travelling to Singapore?
As far as I'm aware, we did not know that the family was travelling to Singapore.
Were any steps taken by the AFP at any point to notify the family of concerns they may face if they travel?
Well, Senator, we weren't aware of their travel as far as I'm aware, so the answer to that is no.
Was any inquiries made of the Singaporean authorities, either directly or indirectly to the AFP, while this family was held in detention in Singapore?
So, Senator, I'll restate my answer. We provided no information to the Singaporean authorities that would have impacted the family's ability to travel, and the decisions made by the Singaporean authorities, quite appropriately, are decisions for the Singaporeans to make.